This is Tanya Dunham, your host for Liberate Black Birth. And we're going to be talking to some gentlemen today about focusing on Black Maternal Health Week and exactly what it is. It's Black Maternal Health Week, and it's April 11th through the 17th. So let's bring everybody on. Let's get this show on and popping. All right, so we have our guest, Emmett Henry, who has been part of the Black Coalition for Safe Motherhood along with me. He's also a producer, writer, videographer, and is going to help us talk about the topic today.
And a father.
And a father, yes, exactly. So listen, we're going to be talking about our theme actually is for Black Maternal Health Week is joy and bodily autonomy. Okay, and we're spotlighting Black men supporting and advocating for their loved ones in this episode of Liberate Black Birth. And so we're going to bring on the rest of our guests. We have Carl Root. How you doing, Carl? Nice to have you on.
I'm doing great. Thank you. Doing great.
Right.
Good to be here.
All right. We also have some other gentlemen joining us. Let's bring them on. Emmett Henry III. How you doing,
How you guys
EJ?
doing? I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Yes, thank you very much for being on Liberate Black Birth podcast. And we also have Bruce. Hi, Bruce.
I'm doing well. How you doing?
All right, doing good. So welcome, everybody, and thank you for being a part of this conversation. Like I said, it's Black Maternal Health Week, and that runs through April 11th through the 17th. So tomorrow through Monday, right? Yeah. And so we're talking about joy and bodily autonomy for your loved ones who are pregnant and everything like that. And so we just want to talk about what that means to you after. Let me introduce everybody properly here. So, Emmett, you want to go first? About who you are, what you do? Emmett Sr.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So my name is Emmett. I run a media entertainment group called Nuance Media, NUANZ. I've been associated with the Black Coalition for Safe Motherhood pretty much since its inception, and that spawned from my involvement with this patient advocacy group. What I've basically been tasked with is to put together their social media videos and just videos in general. Sometimes they put together role dramatizations that I produce as well. My background is from news broadcast history. I've worked with CBS, Bloomberg News, and Spectrum, New York One. And also I'm a father and now a grandfather. My son he's joining me. He brought 2 twin girls into the world. I believe that the world needs to be aware of, and more importantly, specifically the Black community of what their issues, challenges that might be facing them as they go into childbirth. It's not just their imagination. There's demographics and data that sometimes we're facing challenges that a lot of other ethnicities and nationalities don't really face. Some do, but a lot don't. And that's one thing that the Black Coalition is here to task with through the ACT program, is to try to equip people with equip mothers and their support staff, their support group, with some tools that can help them navigate through the childbirth, and then just the healthcare industry altogether. And that's my story.
Awesome. So we're going to go around the table here. Carl, you can explain your advocacy and then what you do.
Well, hello, family. I am a longtime fatherhood practitioner. I am a baby boomer and married for over 30 years, raised 7 adult children, 4 males and 3 females. So I've had some experience with this game. And now that I'm transitioning from the responsible fatherhood practitioner role into a maternal and child health subject matter expert, in that I am working as hard as I can to help save our mothers and babies through an organization called Reaching Out Brothers Everywhere, which was founded by an organization called Reaching Out Sisters Everywhere. And we are the male component of that organization where we engage men. We educate. Our mission is simply to educate, equip, and empower men to impact an increase in breastfeeding rate in the Black community and a decrease in infant mortality rates. And we do this by disseminating and educating men about maternal and child health related issues. It's a great work. First, I was just involved with teaching men the responsibilities of fatherhood, like providing and protection and preparing. But now we're engaging the man in the whole relationship. It's not just the woman, I'm pregnant anymore. It's we pregnant, and
Right. We're doing this. We're in it together.
we have to support the birthing people in our communities because upwards of 70% of the deaths that occur, the maternal mortality and infant mortality, for the maternal side of it, these deaths are mostly preventable. So I'm here to do what I can to help prevent more deaths.
Love that. Thank you so much, Carl. Love that. I just love that work right there. Definitely going to dive into that. Bruce.
Thank you. So my name is Bruce. I'm a public speaker, orator, a writer, creative, and so where I come into play is I met Leslie, who is a co-founder of the Black Coalition for Safe Motherhood, and a few years ago, I was working with Leslie on the Ask for Your Life campaign, which was bringing light on the health disparities and the health biases that Black people face in healthcare, but taking it one step further and not just highlighting the woes that Black people and the melanated people go through, but let's take that agency back and having a curriculum and bringing that agency and ask questions until you understand the answers. Speak up for yourself. Having that confidence and then now as time progressed, me just wanting to continue to speak and learn more because I am not a father. If I'm blessed to be a father at some time, this will only enhance my ability. But I am an uncle. I am a godfather. I am somebody who wants to help and continue to speak and learn more and see how I could be instrumental in making life better for my people.
That's beautiful. Love it. All right. So, EJ, you're up next and last.
My name is Emmett Henry, and I'm an educator, a videographer, and a father to twins. Currently, I'm a stay-at-home dad as well. So,
Okay. All right.
that's my role.
All right. So let's get this conversation started here. First of all, what do you think? What is support for you all for men? How do you support your partner while they're giving birth or just in general, health wise, like maybe going to the doctor or anything like that? What's the support for a man, for males?
I guess other males, actually anyone with knowledge that can advise you on how to soothe, comfort, support your spouse or partner. I guess that would be the support group, whether it might come from your family or your church group, your next door neighbor. It could be anybody. Sometimes, and nowadays, there wasn't YouTube when I was an expectant father, so it was just a neighbor. But I think there's a lot more available through these social platforms, these media platforms for everyone if they seek the knowledge. And then within those things should also be a lot of information on groups, local groups, especially in the communities where you can get some information what to do. But the most important thing, I believe, is that you have to seek it. And a big thing also is that men need to know that they are a part of it, because we can never really understand the complexities and the difficulty and the pain. There might be the discomfort. That's the big word that goes with pregnancy, and whatever you could do to help alleviate that can help the mother to safe delivery, and that's very, very important.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how you give certain support, give them, going to the doctor visits with the pregnant person, or rubbing their feet or whatever. What other kinds of support can you give to somebody or anybody who's expecting?
Well, EJ, why don't you, Emmett, why don't you answer that, because you're like the most recent father.
Yeah, well, yeah, I actually did just go through it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like our time was unprecedented because we're in the midst of the pandemic. So I wasn't allowed in the doctor's office.
Wow.
So I would, ferry her there, and I would wait. And a lot of my support came before and after the actual visits because I wasn't there. But we would have like pep talks beforehand, and I would just check in to see how she would feel. And it was important to listen because obviously I wasn't going through it. So I just tried to listen as much as I could and just advise, because I was sending her in there alone in this case. Yeah.
All right. Well, so that's big time support. Listening definitely is a big time support. So
that's a millennial thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Listening. Yeah. So what's the joy?
The joy is I guess the partnership, just building the partnership, and the strategizing to see what's best. And it's really about taking egos out of it.
Okay.
And doing what's best for the family.
Right. All right. Hey, so Carl, I definitely want to dig deeper in your organization. What is it called again?
Reaching Our Brothers Everywhere.
Okay,
the acronym is ROBE.
Okay.
ROBE. Yes.
All right. And in your you started this organization how long ago?
2014.
2014. All right. Okay. And what are you most proud of?
Yeah, we're about 9 years old.
Wow. What are you most proud of from your organization?
Our ability to engage men and fathers in supporting their birthing person from preconception to postpartum.
Wow. All right. So we're dealing with a different generation now these days and everything. You started in 2014 and everything.
Yes.
I just want to know how did the men perceive it?
Well, basically, again, we were started by reaching our sisters everywhere, whose sole mission is to eliminate the health disparities that exist between Black women and other communities. Mm-hmm. And they do this by advocacy, providing resources, and community. We do a lot of work in the community, right. Peer-to-peer work and practice and policy. But for the men, we have been so far removed from the maternal child health side of this relationship that we now need to engage men in the relationship from the beginning. It's too late, after mama have the baby. We need to be involved pre-conception. So what we're doing, we're talking to men about relationships, because guess what? People are not marrying like they used to.
Right.
So we're doing more co-parenting now than we are anything else. We go into the relationship with the understanding that we're not living together, we're not married, so we're gonna have to co-parent. And this is what we've been moving. It's a paradigm shift for an old soldier like me. But at the same time, as we talk about maternal and child health, our work is guided by the data. The data shows us that our mothers and babies are dying at higher rates. How do we support and protect and stop this, minimize or even eliminate these disparities? Well, with the support. Most of our men are not deadbeat dads. They're dead broke dads. We suffer from just about every ill that this society faces. Mass incarceration, low to no employment, low to no education, low social determinants of health. health. All of these are barriers to us being able to adequately provide, protect, and prepare our families for future success. So we're in on that side of the spectrum where we approach systems because most of the disparities were created by systemic and structural racism. And we recognize that and we talk to our men about it and how we can empower them to know that it's not your fault. And if we had a level playing field, things would be much better. So that's the work that we're proud of. That's the work that we do. And we are so proud to engage men in this way.
I'm proud too. Thank you so much for your
Yes, thank
giving
you.
back. Thank you so much. Still
Yes.
got more questions for you and everything, but I'm gonna move on to Bruce and everything. So, what is your joy?
For me, my experience, mostly I'm just an uncle, just a godfather, just watching a lot of my friends have children nowadays, and it's eye opening for me. Um, because a lot like I'm friends with the same people I went to high school with, and now a lot of them having children. It's like, oh, all right, we real adults now. So the joy for me, well, in most cases, you know what I'm saying, but the joy for me is being able to continuously speak up and learn these things and know that, like you said, how things are changing. I know a lot of people who are just co-parenting and doing it well, you know what I'm saying, even with that paradigm shift. So one thing I would say my joy is continuing to learn these things, because I feel like regardless of my fatherhood, these every black man who knows how to be a every black man who knows how to be a part of the mission to increase and enhance the livelihood of us as a community, benefits the whole collective, from New York all the way to California to the melanated people in the motherland. Everybody, all hands on deck, because like the brother Carl said, if things were even, things would be a lot better, and to be conscious of that stuff. So also knowing, I find joy in knowing that we can retain our agency. It's a battle, but we do that so effortlessly and we do it so smooth. You know what I'm saying? So we just learn to navigate these things and approach and apply the knowledge so that we have better health outcomes for our sisters and for our children, for the future. We'll be the ancestors one day, so we got to play our part.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Tanya, can I pipe in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing to answer specifically to joy, there is a specter that I didn't touch on that Bruce and Carl did, remind us all is the unlevel playing field, is the odds that are stacked against you, and is the injustice that does exist. It's not imaginary, but there's joy in victory, because what we need to understand, and I think everyone needs to understand, every black man needs to understand, is that you can fight the good fight. And if you fight that good fight to take care of your family and be there for your mother as she's expecting, if you spend time with touching the belly and listening to the heartbeat and being engaged in this, it will motivate you to succumb any challenges that society might have set up. And even though it isn't just, and I cannot say it does not exist, I've seen it, I felt it, but I also know that you can knock it down. And brothers need to understand that yeah, it is real, but the victory is ours, and there's joy in victory.
Yes, there definitely is. That's a good point, Emmett. So here's my other question here for every single you men here. Since you all have started your advocacy for Black maternal health, and the years that you put in the work, what do you wish you had back in the day on your journey? I mean, everybody here has kids, right? Except Bruce, right? So, what do you wish you would have known back then that you know now? To help, the person who's pregnant, or
I think that's the answer to everything. If I only knew
yeah,
then what
exactly.
I
But
knew
I'm just
now,
saying, I'm
I
just
just
saying that.
I guess
Exactly.
I guess data, Tanya. If you know, I may not have argued so much with my wife. I might not have taken a second shift. You know, I
Right.
may have made myself more available for those rides. You know, to the doctor's office. I may have been on deck when she was in the realm. You know, in the area of expecting, because I got 3 certificates for childbirth, and I haven't delivered one.
Wow.
So yeah, so to be a guy with 4 kids, I haven't been in a delivery. I was always the guy that's coming in the hospital with my mother-in-law coming out saying, "Oh, praise God,"
Right.
So if I would have known what it would have meant, maybe every nickel and dime, even though it is important, sometimes you got to be available for those, especially when it comes close to game time. So I guess it's something that you can't really say, but then I would like to say, look at, I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I was able to pass it on to my son, if I may say, because I made sure that he was able to be in the delivery room with his mother, his child's mother, so he can experience it. So, because then I took what I learned, and I was able to pass it down. I think most men should.
Okay. All right. So I guess what I need to ask now, and this is probably my last question, I got to bounce. Um, what's the one thing you want to teach men these days to advocate for safe motherhood, black safe motherhood? The one thing that you want men to leave or hear today from this podcast?
I think that you want to help your partner feel empowered and confident
There
in
you
how
go.
she feels and what she knows. Because a lot of times you can know something and feel something about yourself, but an authority figure, in this case a doctor or something, tell you otherwise, and that kind of overrides how you feel.
Right. I like that. Carl, what
So
do
it's
you think?
important to make them feel empowered.
Communicate clear goals.
There you go.
What is the goal? You
What
know what I
is the goal?
mean? We ain't
Yeah,
just
exactly.
having babies. What's our plan here? That's something that I wish I had known as a young man, because it would have given me the impetus that I needed to be able to have better prepared for where we're headed. I just happened to marry a woman who had been married before, and she had 3 children, and I had one already. We came together and made 3 more children. And I asked her later on in life, okay, we've been together now almost 40 years.
All
But
right.
I asked her later on in life, I said, baby, what were you all planning to do with so many children right out of high school? And she said, we were just having babies. And for me, inheriting that, because 1 out of 2 marriages end in divorce, most of our families are now blended.
Right.
And we have to move with a different set of
Right.
rules. But anyway, to make a long story short, I just wish I would have had a better plan for my family instead of just having babies.
Right. We gotta get you
Like I
that.
said, we got 7, y'all.
We got
It is
7.
quite a responsibility. And understanding the seriousness of responsible fatherhood, the impact is so great. I respect you, Brother Emmett. I respect both of you, because it appears to me that Brother Emmett III had a model, that he is a model of responsible fatherhood. And I see him moving in that model. And I didn't have that model, but yet at the same time, a plan and having some men around me or an organization around me that could provide that model would have really made things easier for me. So now I do that for other men.
Okay. Great. All right. So I'm going to hop off now because it's time for me to board. Emmett, are you ready to take over?
Yes.
Safe
All right.
travels.
I will.
Safe travels. Godspeed. Cool.
Yes. Thank you so much, you all. I hope to see you all soon. I hope this is not the last podcast, but thank you so much.
Yes.
See you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Safe travels.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So, fellas, Mr. Bruce, when you, as you deal with speaking with your friends and family, and even what you have learned through being affiliated with these advocacy groups, what are some of the challenges that you could tell the listeners on what a lot of fathers might face when dealing with trying to help their partner through safe, pregnancy?
Um, so in my experience, I think it's just when it comes to being on the same page with the woman who you having a child with, like Brother Carl said, the having clear goals, um, not just producing, knowing actually the magnitude of what this is about to, you just, it's one of the strongest, like it's more than a poem, it's more than a video, like you literally creating something, someone who's going to be here, you know. I mean, the goal is for them to be here after you are. So I would say, a lot of times me and my friends, we revolve around like conversations we had are just about like the barriers, breaking the barriers that we face to be better, not necessarily be better fathers. I don't want to speak, but be able to have access to things like piggybacking off what you said, not taking that like extra shift. But also when you said that, I understand why taking that extra shift in that moment made sense. So having those conversations and being forward thinking more than anything, embracing it right now, but more having that forward thinking, like, okay, this is what we're going towards. And that's what most of my conversations with my friends and colleagues who are having children are framed around.
Yeah, it's one thing that you said, Brother Carl, is there's power in being deliberate. It takes a lot. It'll take a lot of challenges out of your life. Because a child is at least 17 years. They consume a lot of energy, and you multiply that by 2, 3. You're putting a lot on the plate for any couple, and yourself as a father. So you want to have a deliberateness about it, and I'll let Emmett. You got to jump in, because I watch my son, because I gotta be honest, guys. I went to work, and I worked 2 jobs, whatever it is. I can count on one hand how many diapers I might have changed, through the course of my fatherhood. But my son, he actually is the caregiver for twin girls that are children. Emmett, how energy consuming is that?
Much respect to mothers. So who have,
That's right.
historically always been the ones who have this position. Much respect to them. Much respect to my mother and grandmother. It's a very difficult job. You're responsible for the development of people, and it's a constant thing. So
Talk about safety, because that's what because you spend a lot of time taking things out of the mouths and closing doors. How some of those arduous obstacles that might jump in. Give us some color.
As far as with safety, you try to get ahead of it, but toddlers are creative and ingenuitive, so they find ways to get into trouble. But it's best to try to get ahead of it, childproofing and such. But you can't think of everything. Things happen that you wouldn't even imagine happen sometimes.
So, Brother Carl, let me ask you this, because you run a group, so you're helping young men. I don't think as men, I don't even know if a color is involved with this question I'm about to put to you. But sometimes, especially when you're not a tight couple, and you have obstacles with trying to be a father to the child, how difficult are those bridges to cross when you have to combat? Does your group, your advocacy group, deal with those situations when fathers have to deal with their mothers, deal with a mother in a combative type, uncooperative? Do you guys deal with that?
Most definitely. The first part of my run with this work, I work with teen fathers, and teen fathers have to navigate child support. They have to navigate legitimation, legal rights to their children. A lot of men don't understand this because when you're not married in the state of Georgia, you have to get legitimation done, which is about a $315 process to get the courts to recognize you as the legal father. You can't go and pick them up from school unless you're on the, sign-in sheet or whatever. And schools won't allow you to have legal rights to your child. A lot of people are thinking that once they sign the birth certificate, that's it. But really, you're just signing up for child support. So we teach, especially our young men, our young unmarried couples, that listen, you must go and get your child legitimated. This will help to establish, DNA and all of that, because especially teen fathers, it's mama's baby, daddy's maybe. Because like they say to me, Mr. Root, we just smashing. We ain't trying to have no babies, but they're having unprotected sex. 85% of all babies born are unplanned. If you're married, you really can't plan when the baby's going to come to a T, but 85% of all pregnancies are unplanned. But with teen, undeveloped men and women, they're having sex, they're having babies. So we have to introduce them to what's coming. The male is not child support, it's taking care of your baby. And they have to be taught that, it ain't about dodging child support. But then we also have to deal with what's real. A lot of these, especially younger fathers, don't really know if it's their baby or not. So their mothers and aunties and grandmothers are asking them to have a DNA test. And the barriers that we find are the gatekeeping mothers of the children. Get upset and feel like you questioning me about this being your baby. They get offended, and then they might fall out of good grace with the mother of that child. And now they're doing gatekeeping. They're blocking the man from seeing the baby and all these other things that a man has to navigate because the judicial system is historically on the side of the woman.
Yeah, and again, I really have to go back to the whole being deliberate and planning about things, because you'll go. It said my sister would use the term poking and joking, and that's not a realm you want to be in. To develop a child. And one thing, another anecdote that I ran into, going to purchase condoms. It's so crazy because if you're married and you buy a condom, that's called family planning. But if you're single and you're buying a condom, that's called safe sex. Right. So, even though it's the same action, there's a deliberateness about what you do. Hey, brother Bruce, in your travels and your talk with people, your family, how do they deal with some of these challenges that we're talking about right now? Is when there isn't a planned relationship, but there is a child, and these people have to coexist and co-parent together, even though they aren't on the same terms. What are the challenges they may face?
So just going off personal experience, I'll speak from that. Me being the oldest, I'm the oldest of five, and just witnessing that, and me and my family have been through certain things. There was a time, my parents are married now. My parents got married when I was around like 24, so my dynamic with growing up in the household, I've always been around my father. I was able to see a man wanting to do his absolute best for his family, doing his absolute best and navigating that. But just knowing that, like, putting the children first has been, in my experience, just watching, it seems like from the outside looking in, that's the best result for like when we talk about intentional for the children. You know, when I got a close friend of mine where not fully sure, I know he's not with the mother of his child, but they co-parent to a level that I applaud them because they co-parent, and I'm like, wow, like, you know, it doesn't seem businessy. It is just like they have what's best for the child in mind at all times. They work together. They know that if they make each other's life easier, they work together to do that, then the child will benefit from that. And I've seen that in my life. I've seen that just when my parents have put their uh, pride or egos aside, how that benefited me growing up. You know, at my age now, 29, I could look back when I was, you know, 8, 11 in those areas where like my parents might not have been seeing eye to eye, but then it was just that maturity in both of them to say, no, but what does he need right now? Could I ask a question real fast?
Please.
So clearly I don't have kids, but I wanted to ask you guys, like, as fathers, how do you separate that? Like, it might have been a tough day. It might have been, a day where it's just, the breaking through the minutia. But how do you separate that emotion to know that when you look at that your child, they didn't ask to be here, but they're here now? And like, how do you work to navigate those human emotions that we feel? Like, you know what I'm saying? Emotions fluctuate. So how do you, as fathers, navigating those emotional fluctuations?
EJ?
Therapy? Therapy works best. Or, just being able to talk with your partner as well about how you guys are feeling. I think it's important to express that you guys are tired, like, so the other one is aware of what's going on and know when to pick up the slack or whatever without really being asked or whatever. So it's just good to communicate well, or to do your best to communicate well.
Yeah. I always thought and I would think for both of us that the tough day ended at the door. I would like to think that a man's home is his castle, that home is your oasis, and that you can enjoy, that a family is to be enjoyed, as opposed to looked at as a difficulty measure. And I can't emphasize more into that bonding ritual, because not only do mothers have the capability of bonding, but fathers can bond as well. I mean, from the time the child is in the womb, listening, touching the feeling it move in the mother's stomach, that's something that's worthwhile. And again, hate to beat a dead horse, but that's part of being deliberate about what it is. And and even though the pregnancy may not be deliberate, the carrying the baby and bringing it to fruition and the life can be a deliberate plan to that, even though the pregnancy may not be deliberate. Carl, how do you deal with tough days and coming to the home with a tribe, a Brady Bunch of your own?
Brother Emmett, you said something that was so very powerful. That one word, deliberate, being deliberate. Like, the woman is, it's a natural bond with the child. She carries and delivers the child. But for the man, we have to be intentional about our presence, intentional about our involvement, because guess what? We don't have that natural entanglement with the child. Mm-hmm. So that being deliberate, oh yes, I was deliberate about going home. I was blessed to have a baby girl that when I looked into her eyes, my life literally changed. I knew then that I could not be the same undeveloped male that I had been when I impregnated her mother. So every day from that point forward, after she was born, and she was the third child that was born to me, but every day from that day forward, I looked forward to going home to lead my family. because they were there waiting on me. And you know what? It's the most powerful office I've ever been afforded an opportunity to hold. All the other strivings I've striven for, power and leadership positions and money and good jobs, nothing compares to the office of father because of the impact. Again, I grew up without my father. I had a stepfather who never loved me. He never said he loved me or never gave me a hug, but he was a great provider. But I missed my daddy. I wanted my own daddy. He had a daughter by my mother 3 times. We had a blended family, but he had one child by my mother, and he set aside college funds for her and everything. And I was the baby of my mother, and he set nothing aside for me. So it impacted the way I moved forward. So today, the work that I do is to make sure that because we're in the blended family paradigm right now, that stepfather understands that don't make a difference between your children. Treat them all to the same goods that you bring to the house. Give them access to you and to all that you have, just like you do your own natural born children. And it's personal for me. But every day I hit that door, just like you said, Brother Emmett, I was intentional and deliberate about being there and grateful for the opportunity to lead my family.
Indeed, indeed.
And my oldest is 47. My youngest is 30, and they're doing pretty well. And God has been good to us. So just presence with the plan has taken us a long way.
Hallelujah. Hey, let's go into some of the rough things that a rough conversation that is pretty much, really the focus of why we're all here. And that's just like advocating for mothers for equitable treatment, fair treatment, humane treatment that is lacking. Now, Brother Bruce, you have to be a storehouse of stories, with your work with the groups. Can you share a story that sticks out in your mind about mishandling, a mother feeling that she wasn't properly treated or from a care provider, someone that she's putting her health and trust in?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I just left the National Healthy Starts Association annual conference in Washington, D.C., and they brought in a couple of men who lost their wives. One lost their partner and one lost his wife. And it was just due to outright negligence. They were not hearing. The woman, the birthing person, was complaining about pain. And of course, the man, just like during COVID, was not even allowed to be in the room for the most part. He really has to advocate for himself and be kind of forceful about the wishes of his birthing person that he's supporting by saying, listen, she's been complaining about pain in her abdomen. Will somebody come and see about it? Specifically, this person had been scheduled for a CAT scan because she was bleeding. And the man, her partner, was there telling them, listen, something's wrong. Something's not right. I know my woman, and she's been complaining about this pain. And he advocated, and they waited 12 hours, 18 hours, and they never got around to doing that CAT scan. And she ended up with a lot of blood in her abdomen. But anyway, end result, she ended up passing away from a totally preventable situation. And in talking with those men, they now have organizations. Both those men have developed organizations to advocate for men, to advocate for their birthing person, because in these spaces, in the healthcare spaces, women, most of our babies, as you know, are dying from being premature or low birth weight. Okay, most of our babies. That's what and most of our babies we're having a lot of cesarean sessions. Okay, my organization advocates for baby-friendly hospitals. We were part of a baby-friendly hospital initiative where they don't do cesarean sessions, and that unless it's absolutely necessary. They don't push formula on babies because we know that human milk is the best milk for babies. If a woman is able to breastfeed, then she should. But of course, there are some medical situations where all women are not able to do that. But milk is species specific. We are the only species that feed another species milk to our young. All right. But we are advocates for that because we recognize that with these initiatives, our healthcare system is being forced to treat our women birthing persons with dignity. A lot of our birthing people tend to be young mothers, unwed, and usually are on welfare or some kind of WIC or some kind of public assistance. So they are not treated with as much dignity as other populations. So that's why we exist. And we exist to help men to navigate those systems where they're treated with disrespect.
Thank you. Bruce, do you have any standout scenarios that you might be able to share that you've come across, that a hard story of a mother? You're on mute.
Thank you. All right. There was one I was glaring at. I'm sure all of us know. Can't really remember too much of the motherly experience, but I know Serena Williams recently went through that. Like, not recently, a few years ago, it was actually a big thing that Serena Williams went through that, because it took the veil off. Like, speaking of what Brother Carl said, a lot of young mothers might not come from like co-parenting, or the man might not be there, or different circumstances. But that Serena Williams situation took the veil off, taking it away from, it's just a socioeconomic thing. It went to actually pinpoint the truth that there is disproportionate bias. Black people are seen as stronger. Black people are seen as superhuman, things like that. If we pay attention to the dialogue that's been said in the media, you know what I'm saying, just over in general, that stuff transcends and goes into the psyche of, that medical worker, where, a woman might say something hurts, and they take a little longer. A Black woman might say this hurts, and it takes a little longer for them to come and check, just because that trope, that negative trope that Black women are strong. You know what I'm saying? It almost it hurts. It's to a detriment, because it takes making Black people seem superhuman dehumanizes us. It's not a compliment. Our strength and our fortitude came through like necessity. It's ingrained in us. We just needed to do that. So that's one situation that I knew of that was glaring. But there was another situation one time where it wasn't necessarily I was at a workshop and I was learning, and there was testimonies, and this woman basically said she was working on having children. She was a younger lady, and she didn't fully understand what the doctor was saying. And in the workshop, the lady wound up saying in her confession, she was like, she was given a hysterectomy. And that was when I was educated in that moment, because the whole room of women gasped, like, and I didn't, it was a few years ago. I didn't know what it was, but just that woman not being able to advocate and understand, not even having someone in the room with her to say, wait a second, before we okay any of this, we're going to look up to see what that word means. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those things, and like, and just breaking that barrier when it comes to healthcare, being able to say like, nah, it's okay for us to slow down and say, I don't understand these words. This is not my profession. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if I'm a salesman, if I sell books and I'm a lucrative book salesman, that doesn't give me any fault that I don't know what certain words mean and all of that. So
yeah, let me interrupt you right there, because what I did want to take almost like a break from our sponsor. This we're here, one of the Black Coalition's mantras is ACT, the acronym ACT.
Yeah,
that is, ask questions, claim your space,
Mm-hmm.
trust your body. But we have all spoken to that,
Right.
and tell your story. So somewhere down the line, in all these anecdotes that we've all described, all those four things that health professionals came up with, the ACT acronym isn't just a haphazard thought. Professionals, medical professionals, obstetricians, gynecologists, and other doctors
Yes.
have really devised to simplify these steps that can help women, help anybody actually, and when you're dealing with your doctor, and especially in an emergency sake, to describe what is going on with you. And again, that's ask questions, claim your space. And then claim your space just means like what I want and what I don't want. You have the right to do that, legal right to do that. Trust your body. If they're telling you that you can do something, you can have this procedure, or you can wait a couple of minutes for something, but you're in pain or you're in discomfort, or you don't think you need to do that, trust your body. Run with that and tell your story. Let people know this is what I'm feeling. This is what happened, and it's a very, very powerful steps, possibly life saving. And to add to you too, when you talked about Serena Williams, and really quick, yeah, that's another thing about racial disparity in the healthcare, is that it has no financial aspect, it has no educational ceiling. It has, and sometimes you can just run into difficulties or that complication from a practitioner that looks like you.
Yeah.
So it's less and less about your demographic, and it's more just about how society as a whole
views us.
You. Yes, that's about it. And so EJ, you were in the room when delivery was happening. Would you like to share anything about how, was there ever a moment when you felt you were on shaky ground? Because it was a complicated delivery. I'm sorry, I just happen to know your story, so I'm trying to squeeze it. Sorry.
No, I feel like we did a good job being thorough in picking the team that we were going to be working with. It was, as I said before,
What did you use? What did you use to? What kind of requirements or system did you use to try to pick your team?
Well, first we tried to pick people of color because we were just more comfortable with that. Just the way the office looked, credentials, and basically just after the interview and the first visit, we just spoke about how we felt about them. And in the earlier days, I was allowed to come to the doctor's visits, but as the pandemic progressed, that ended shortly after. So we doubled down on communication before and after visits, just to, as I said before, empower the way she felt and just make her feel confident when she was going into just all the processes.
Okay. I think we're winding. At least I think we're winding down. So I would, Bruce and Carl, you guys have groups that you work with. Do you want to pass on some information to the listenership on how they could get in touch with you?
Yes. My organization is Reaching Our Brothers Everywhere. Website is www.breastfeedingrobe.org. And I can be contacted first initial, last name C Route, spelled like route, ROUTE, at breastfeedingrose.org. breastfeedingrose.org.
Okay. Brother Bruce, is there any contact information or website you want to pass on?
Yeah, so I'm looking to do more as this ACTT curriculum grows, with the Black Coalition for Safe Motherhood grows. I'm looking to you can look into that on the Facebook page that this is streaming from, the BCSM coalition. I think that's what it is on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook as well, Darrell Bruce. You find me there. I'll place a link. I'll send a link out. But basically, just continuing to, work with the ACT program, spread that curriculum, and yeah, you can find me there. That's my name, and continue to like help. I want no matter what it is, co-parenting, no matter what it is, I want black men to not leave the women stranded, no matter what the relationship is. When that life is, when she bringing that life into the world, it's not leaving them stranded, because it literally takes, a village when it's done well. I can say that for the people in my life.
Yeah, EJ, Emmett, you got the floor. You can close out. You being the father, you're on mute. Take yourself off mute. As you protect not only the mother, but also as the baby girls. How do you plan to advocate for them in the future? What you hope for?
As far as advocation, I just hope to once again empower them and make them feel comfortable with not only expressing themselves to me, but also speaking up for themselves in the sense of doctor's office visits and things of the such.
There it is. Well, there we have it, guys. I appreciate you were such generous, almost non-threatening people. It's the first time I've ever hosted anything. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your advocacy and your strength and passing on the word. Thank you, all, and bless you.
Peace and blessings, my brothers.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Is that it? Yep, I think that's it. Peace.